And now it is with great pride and honor to welcome the Metropolitan Archbishop of Cotabato, His Eminence Orlando Beltran Cardinal Quevedo, OMI.
Thank you very much po. Good afternoon to all of you. It's good for me to be here. And I put down the lectern so that you can see me better. And that's the reason the lectern is lower. I am going to talk about mission, especially for parishes and communities. And the title I have given it is From Comfort Zone to Mission. So let me begin with a story. I was driving through a village in the mountains of Upinoro, Timanan, in that area near Cotabato. And one of the lay ministers whom we call Kaabag in the basic ecclesial community, was there, and he recognized the vehicle and he waved and I stopped. I knew him. And he asked me about Cardinal, about Pope Francis. Si Pogi Ilonggo. Cardinal, sabi niya, how is Pope Francis? And I said, he's fine. And Pope Francis said that you are a missionary. You are a missionary. Really? He said, like our two priests in Alaska. You know, we have two priests in Alaska, they are some priests. Yes, like them. Pope Francis said that when you and I were baptized, we became disciples of Jesus and also missionaries. How is that? I almost siling niya, pamangkot siya. Ilonggo. How many of you are Ilonggos here? How many are from Mindanao? Very few. How many are from Northern Luzon? Yeah. Central and Southern Luzon? And the Visayas. Oh. Mas daghan taga Visayas kaysa Mindanao. How is that? How can be a missionary? And I said, Pope Francis said, by simply living a faithful Christian life, you are already proclaiming Jesus as Lord and Savior. So how do I do that? Be a good husband. Be a good parent. Be a good farmer. Lay leader. Do your duties to the best of your ability. You do this because Jesus is your Lord. And when you are a good and faithful husband, good parent, good neighbor, you are proclaiming the Lord Jesus. You do that because you are a disciple of the Lord. Wow! Yeah. Cardinal, that's really great. I will explain that to the BEC and to the village chapel on Sunday. They gather every Sunday in the village chapel for the liturgy of the Word, service of the Word. And he explains the gospel reading, and then he gives communion to the people there, because there is no priest out there in the villages on Sundays. That's the story, and I would like to begin with that. Did Pope Francis really say what I told our BEC lay leader? Let me quote Pope Francis. In virtue of their baptism, all the members of the people of God have become missionary disciples. All the baptized, whatever their position in the church or their level of instruction in the faith, are agents of evangelization. We no longer say that we are disciples, and missionaries. Rather, we say we are always missionary disciples. And I would like to reflect on that a little bit. We are a community of missionary disciples, an evangelizing community. Each member of the baptized community, being a missionary disciple, is at the very root, the very heart of our identity as church. We cannot separate our baptism, our being missionary disciples, from our baptism. We are a church that is always being sent forth. Go forth, teach all nations. But what do these words mean? And simply this: take the poor beggar, begging for 4 ounces, or the sick person lying in pain in hospital bed, the tricycle driver, the child playing in the streets. Are they missionaries? Yes. They are as missionary by their baptism as the priest, the religious, the catechist, or the foreign missionary. They must not be strangers to acts of mercy and compassion. They all have duties of love to fulfill for their loved ones, for their families and neighbors. The child begging in the streets, or even stealing in the streets. He is stealing not for himself, he's stealing for his family, for his brothers and sisters, so that they can have food. Is that an act of love? Yes. The act of stealing, of course, is not. But the motivation of that is love. He wants to feed his siblings. Every baptized has to wash the feet of others. And this is an act of mercy and kindness. Ordinary acts of kindness and mercy are evangelizing acts. They are a way of proclaiming the Lord Jesus and His kindness. They are acts of mission, acts of proclaiming the gospel. That's why Pope Paul cried out, "Woe to me if I do not proclaim the gospel." St. Paul, as well as any of the apostles, understood what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. To follow Jesus is to follow His message, His very life, His proclamation of the gospel. He speaks for all of us who are baptized. We will betray our very identity as missionary disciples if we live lives of indifference to the needs of others. We would succumb to what Pope Francis has referred to as the globalization of indifference. If we are indifferent to others' needs and just sit down and have pity on them from a distance without acting on their needs, that's indifference. They are joining this global indifference that we see, that Pope Francis has seen in the world. The church is a church in mission. And I would like to emphasize this next part, the poor in mission. The Pope said in Evangelii Gaudium, let us be permanently in a state of mission. To be always on a mission mode. That is the very nature of the church. It never ceases to be a community of missionary disciples. Jesus sends us forth to the peripheries of life to proclaim the gospel and God's kingdom, giving justice and hope to the poor and the powerless. Archbishop Fisichella mentioned in his talk this morning that the Pope is coming out with a document, and has come out with a document for the first World Day of the Poor, November 17, I believe, 2017. World Day of the Poor. And he said, read that, reflect on that. A very good document about we caring for the poor, going out to the peripheries of the margins of life to take care of the marginalized. And the marginalized can be non-Catholics, non-Christians. The marginalized could be Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Lumans, or the indigenous peoples. We have to go out to them. Be on a mission mode to give them hope that in the midst of marginalization, these people in the margins of life can expect the kingdom of God to enter into their lives. A kingdom of justice and love. Hope for the poor. But we often forget that those in the margins of life, the have-nots who have no voice in society, or whose voices are not heard by the powers that be, we often forget that they too have the right and the power to evangelize. This is what I see the Pope has not written in his document for the World Day of Poor. He emphasizes and highlights this point that we should be evangelically poor. Rich and poor alike must have evangelical poverty. Total faith in God, total dependence on God, acknowledging that God is the giver of all gifts. We are totally vulnerable, and that is faith. We have to live by faith. And when we do that, we are acknowledge total dependence on God, utter poverty, the poverty of the Spirit. We all have to do to be that, rich and poor alike. But we often forget that the poor have the power and the right to evangelize. How often in my life as a bishop in Kidapawan and in Ilocos Sur, the poor have taught me the values of the gospel and of the kingdom. They did not have to tell me. Just by staying with them for 2 or 3 days, eating their food, sleeping in their houses, I can see right away that the values of the kingdom are those they live. I had to learn those values, but what I learned, they live. The Lumans or indigenous peoples, the Bilaans of Kidapawan, the Tedorais in the Colaman area of the Archdiocese of Cotabato, the Cancanese up there, the remote barrios of Ilocos Sur. They are the poorest of the poor. They have taught me what faith and total dependence on God is all about. They have nothing. They live from day to day. They live from day to day. Malnourished. Children, they have to eat betel nuts with, what do you call that in Tagalog? The betel? Nganga? Nganga. Because that is like opium. You forget your hunger. And the little kids are given the nganga by their parents. They forget their hunger. They also know what it means to wait for God's time. Kailan ba magbago ang ating buhay? Depende na sa Diyos. Bahala na sa Diyos. God's own time. You can write a treatise on the kairos of God, but they live that kairos. They struggle daily against all odds to care for their families, their children as gifts of God. They might be poor, but they have many children, and their children are the richest. They're God's gift to them. One time there was a Protestant minister who was on exposure program in the BECs in Nueva Segovia, Ilocos Sur. She went to this mountain area and she was staying there with the BEC. And when she came back, the Protestant minister, a woman, told me, Bishop, this is injustice. What is unjust? I asked him, how poor they are and you forbid them to have contraceptives. Did you ever hear from them a complaint about the children? On the other hand, did you hear from them how blessed they are in the children that they have? Yes, I heard that from them. But this is indoctrination. He says, well, you see, you have a different view of life. We have a different view from yours. The poor have many children. Do not deny them of the riches that come from God, their gifts. They also have to care for creation, the environment. They have heard the words of God and heeded it as the parable of the sower, thus bearing fruit with patient endurance. I remember Pope Francis says in his Evangelicalium, the evangelizer spends a lot of time being patient. Patience is one of the gifts the evangelizer must have. Patient endurance. And that's like the sower spreading the seeds on the ground and it grows slowly together with the weeds. But the weeds are there. When our lives mingle with the poor, how true indeed are the words of Pope Francis. Evangelization consists mostly of patience and disregard for the constraints of time. As I said, the poor know of God's kairos more deeply than I do. What I learn about God's own time, they already live. That's the power of the poor. They are on mission. Without saying so in words, they are in mission. Renewal to mission. So how do we become parishes and BECs that go from comfort zone, from mere conservation, to a mission mode, to being missionaries? First requirement, conversion. A movement from the comfort zone of mere conservation to a decidedly missionary pastoral ministry. This is what Pope Francis says in number 15, Evangelicalium. The first involves a ministry of maintenance, this conservation idea. You just simply maintain what is there. Sacramental work is part of the maintenance mode. And the priest can spend a lot of time very zealously maintaining the church and the parish in that mode, taking care of mandated organizations, attending meetings, and so on and so forth, training catechists, burying the dead. But the Pope talks about creativity, innovation in the care of the parish. We need to have a new evangelization taking place. And that means different from the old style of evangelizing. In 1991, the Second Plenary Council of the Philippines said that we are sacramentalized but not evangelized. And therefore, PCP2 said we need to embark on a journey of integral, renewed evangelization. Renewed evangelization. Those are the words we said. Pope John Paul II would say, new evangelization, followed by Benedict XVI, new evangelization. And Pope Francis also uses the word new evangelization. This Congress is about new evangelization. In the Philippines, but PCP2, we would call that renewed integral evangelization. Though such faith communities are often at the vanguard of Christian renewal, there are many faith communities, Bukas, Loob, Elim, CFC, all these are faith communities that are at the vanguard of renewal in the Christian community. But they too need conversion to mission. They too need the renewal of missionary consciousness that goes beyond organization and work, our gawain. Beyond that, to look outwards to the deeper meaning of being community and of their charism and the service of mission. Your charism as a CFC, your charism as Salesian sisters, your charism as OND sisters or Light of the Gospel. Nag-agree dyan. I think there are ISO RBMs here also. Your charisms are not charisms at the service of your community. They are charisms at the service of mission. Your founders thought of mission and so founded your congregation. Thus, conversion is needed by the various structures of the parish, such as parish councils, pastoral programs, chapels and BECs. And already Pope Francis has alluded this renewal of structures when he said, I dream of a missionary option, that is, a missionary impulse capable of transforming everything, an impulse of mission, capable of transforming everything, so that the church customs, ways of doing things, times and schedules, language and structures can be suitably channeled for the evangelization of today's world rather than for her own self-preservation. I always have a little problem understanding for the church. We have to do this for the church. We have to do this for the church. Beyond the church is the kingdom of God. Beyond the church is her mission. We have to do this not for the church. We have to do this for the mission of the church. That's very important. How does the missionary impulse take hold of parishes and communities and drive them to be in a state of mission? How does conversion take place? And here, to the rest of my presentation, I would like to use a personal experience, my own personal experience as a bishop, and as a priest, and then as Archbishop of Cotabato, and before that, Archbishop of Nueva Segovia, so Quitapawan. I was born as the one who gave the introduction in northern Luzon, in Lawag, Ilocos Norte. My hometown is the small village, the barangay before Lawag. It's called Sarlang, Ilocos Norte. Famous for its connection with President Marcos. I was born there, but I grew up in Mindanao. I grew up in Mindanao, and my viewpoint about church, about change, about BECs, about the church, about mission, is a viewpoint that came from Mindanao. Because Mindanao was a land of migrants among Muslims and Romans, indigenous peoples. The Christian migrants were pastorally taken care of by missionaries, foreign missionaries. You have the MSCs, the SVDs, the Jesuits, the oblates among the priests, the PMEs, the vow. Name that they are scattered. The first bishops were foreign bishops or religious. Thus, foreign missionaries gave pastoral care to the Christian migrants, and as a grade school student and as a high school student, I served as an altar boy for the Oblates of Mary Immaculate in the parish. And I began thinking about becoming a missionary like them. They left their homes to come to the Philippines and stay with us, and they died here in the Philippines. Many of them died here in the Philippines. I wanted to be a missionary like them, to go out also of the country. And so I did. I became a missionary priest with God's grace and the support of my parents. Before and after World War II, the Oblates of Mary Immaculate were in charge of the entire undivided province of Cotabato. It was called the Empire Province. Up to 1950s, in the 1950s, when it was divided into South Cotabato and North Cotabato. And then subdivided further into Sarangani and Sultan Kudarat and Maguindanao. You have about 5 provinces from that one province which the Oblates took care after the World War, to about 1950s. But when it was subdivided, first it was subdivided, foreign missionaries also took care of South Cotabato. The Passionist, or the Passionist fathers. Some call them the Passionate fathers. Passionate in mission, not passionate. They took care of all the way to Tawi-Tawi and Sulu. From the very beginning, the people of Cotabato were aware of being under missionaries. Priests, religious brothers, married brothers were there, foreign American, and sisters were religious. Very known sisters, later on the OND sisters, Dominican sisters, RBM sisters, were the first partners of the Oblates in taking care of the schools in Cotabato City. The first 2 bishops of Cotabato were foreign Oblate missionaries. Today, the archdiocese is under the pastoral care mostly of diocesan priests whose parents grew up under the Oblates. Without doubt, our missionary consciousness consisted of being recipients of mission. We are the receivers. We are not those who are active agents of mission. Conversion of mindsets was needed. Mission consciousness had to become holistic, aware that mission is not only about receiving, it is also about becoming missionaries ourselves. Not becoming missionaries abroad, but becoming missionaries at home. That's the need for conversion. To be missionaries even at home. In 1998, I arrived from northern Luzon, from Nueva Diocese, as the 3rd Archbishop of Cotabato. I succeeded my former superior in the seminary and the University Superior Oblate Archbishop Philip Smith, who was Bostonian. It was the end of an era of foreign missionary episcopal leadership that began in the 1950s But it was also the formal beginning of a new missionary impulse. When he resigned and became the third Archbishop, there was a new missionary impulse that emerged. What is this missionary impulse? I will describe it. The renewal of mindsets, conversion, and the renewal of structures towards mission. I begin with the fifth Archdiocese Pastoral Assembly of Cotabato City. At that, delegates from all the representatives, lay people, religious priests and diocesan priests, religious sisters from different congregations gathered for 5 days and did a pastoral discernment, which we call in the Federation of Asian Bishops Conference a pastoral spiral. And you will see how the conversion of mindsets will take place. For 5 days, representatives from the parishes discern the pastoral situation. That is the first step, discerning the pastoral situation of the Archdiocese. Evaluated what we have done as church. What have we done with regard to this situation? We envision then what should we be in order, what should we be as church in order to respond, to give an effective response, and what decisions can we make with regard to that vision and with regard to the programs to respond to the challenges. So you have this situation, faith discernment, envisioning, decisions or pastoral recommendations, and then implementation, so on. It's a pastoral spiral that goes like this. At the end of that, you evaluate the decisions taken to find out whether they were effective. A new spiral begins, a new discernment begins. You can do that also for vocations. If you are an accountant and wondering whether you should be a seminarian, you use that. What is my situation? Pastoral. What is God calling me to be? What is my vision as a person? What decisions shall I make? Yeah, pastoral discernment can be vocation discernment. That is an elaboration of the see, judge, act effort. And through this process of pastoral discernment for 5 days and participatory envisioning, they do this themselves, among themselves. Lay people, priests, religious. I seldom talk, at least in this unless asked. I wish the people to decide, make the recommendation to me at the end. I do not veto any decision unless it's a matter of life and death. I might say there is something easier to do and something faster rather than that long way that you have decided. But who will implement the decision? They themselves. So, okay. Through this, how is the mission of evangelization to be understood in the social, religious context of the Archdiocese? And what are the challenges to mission in the diocese? How do we respond? How shall we participate in this mission? Those are questions expressing the same thing as mission, renewing structures, renewing the mindsets of religious, clergy, and lay people regarding mission. That they are not planning this simply to address. This is part and parcel of the mission of evangelization. Using the pastoral spiral, the delegates discern 4 challenges that confronted the mission of evangelization, dichotomy between faith and life, the social and cultural divisions and conflicts in Cotabato, biases and prejudices among different religious groups, Muslims and Christians, the gap between rich and poor, and the lack of relationship between the rich and the poor. Very, very obvious here, especially in Manila, where the rich have their own churches and the poor have their own churches. And stark contrast. Go to a church in Tondo, in the slums of more Bagong Barrio, and you go to a church, a santuario. So that's so different. So different. You don't see somebody with jedalas going there to attend Mass. In Cathedral of Cotabato, you see the rich and poor mingle. The gap between rich and poor is there, but the church is for all. The lack of participation by lay people in decision making in the church, their non-involvement in the mission of the church. One time in Ilocosur, the first assembly that they had, Nueva Segovia Pastoral Assembly, I told the priest, do not talk during the workshop. You will be there, and the discussion, the question will be given, do not talk. Let them talk. Listen to them. The first workshop, mahirap. No one was talking at all. And one of the lay people, Father, ano bang gawin natin? You decide. Pero you know, maybe, but you decide. Bakit hindi ka magsalita? Sabi niya, kasi ang arsubispo natin, sabi niya, we were not supposed to talk. The first workshop was difficult, succeeding workshops, they could not stop anymore. The lay people could not stop talking. Participation in that workshop is a participation in decision making. Inadequacy considering culture in faith formation. Culture. Why is it, for instance, that we do not participate well in church? Sometimes it is the cultural thing. We worship according to our culture. Chinese Christians, Chinese, Koreans, Thai, they worship, they have Mass in a different way, very quiet, very solemn. Koreans, you can see them also like this, with veil sometimes, very quiet. In the Mission Congress, Asian Mission Congress in Thailand, the Thai bishop said, please, no dancing during the Mass. We do not like the dancing during the Mass. I don't know. The Indian sisters were ready to have the dance during the Mass. They were invited to do choreography during the Mass, but they were forbidden there. So they did their choreography before and after the Mass, but not during. Tayo, anytime. Anytime. Except for the consecration. At any time, including my choreography during the Gloria, my choreography during the penitential rite, my choreography during the offertory procession, every time. We like to dance, that is cultural. Kung wala yan, especially for the young, they feel bored. They'd rather have their own kind of Mass. So, inadequacy of considering culture in faith formation and in the liturgy. After that, envisioning the sermon in the first day, the second day was about the second and third was what kind of church should we be to respond to these pastoral challenges, the four ones there. They began discussing. discussing. I knew that they would come up with images of church that respond to each of those challenges. But they provided the answers themselves. We must be, in terms of the cultural divisions, a community. In terms of the dichotomy to faith, authentic discipleship, not only in word but in deed. In terms of the poverty, the gap between rich and poor, we must be a church of the poor. In terms of the insufficiency of participation in decision making, we need to be a participatory church. In terms of the lack of considering culture, we need to be an enculturated church. And all this church, the vision of a new way of being church, is because of the mission of integral evangelization. We can rightly anticipate how the mission statement would guide the whole archdiocese into a state of mission. The beginning is there of the different leaders from the different parishes. The beginnings of there to have the church in Cotabato on a permanent state of mission, because they have seen this vision of church through their discussions, and that vision of church is not for the church to be only church, but the church to be on mission, the mission of integral evangelization. And then after that, the vision, we have to identify priorities, pastoral priorities. What in the missionary enterprise, what do we have, what do we see as priorities? And these priorities are in the context of the pastoral situation. Towards the vision and mission, Amplified decided that the pastoral thrust of the archdiocese would be the building of basic ecclesial communities, BECs. Because the belief is that the BEC reflects our vision of church as a community of genuine disciples, a church of the poor, participatory, enculturated church, and so on and so forth. The BEC is on a mission of integral evangelization. It is participatory. Of course, you have to make that BEC, yet they have to form themselves into a participatory church. And the priest must be converted also in mindset, so that the priest listens rather than dictates. He is not a lord over the basic ecclesial community. He is a servant leader. So the mindset has to change. The clergy, including the bishop. An examination for me as a bishop is what Pope Francis says in Evangelii Gaudium. And I said, am I that kind of a bishop? The bishop sometimes have to be in front of the people, leading them from the front, giving the direction from the front. Sometimes he has to be behind them. Let the people go. You have given the general direction. You have said to them, there, and now you follow them rather than go in front. They will go and lead. But most of the time, you need to be simply among the people, walking among the people. You are not a macro manager. You are not a micromanager. You are simply accompanying them, walking towards renewal, walking towards the mission. Am I that kind of a bishop? Or priest can say, am I that kind of a priest, parish priest? Or do I tell people to do everything? Utos pari, utos pari. Well, examination of conscience. They also believed that the starting point for the pastoral thrust is the family. The BECs consists of families. Families in one chapel, or families that are perhaps neighborhood families, 15 to 20 families. There are several kinds of groupings, but always family. It is therefore in the family that mission emerges. They have to be evangelized, and being evangelized, they are themselves evangelizing agents. Evangelizing agents. If you have families in a whole parish like that, evangelized, and that also evangelizes, what a dynamic parish you would have. It is a parish and a state of mission. The Archdiocese pastoral team, therefore, went around. The BEC team of the parish, of the Archdiocese, went around, going from parish to parish, doing modules on lay leadership, on family, and many other training modules. They went. And trying to form parish teams also. The parish team can take over what the work of the Archdiocese pastoral team has done and continue the work of training lay leaders. Not only the first level, but second level lay leaders, so that if there are elections for new leaders, there are others. There is special training for kaabaks. Kaabaks are almost like lay deacons. They can do everything except hear confessions and celebrate Mass. The kaabaks, especially in the remote barrios, remote villages. So they have to have special training. This was done. The journey to mission, therefore, entailed a renewal of structures. First, renewal of mindsets, and then renewal of structures at all levels of the Archdiocese. Mission renewal in the light of the APA vision of church began to permeate clergy meetings and reflections, as well as pastoral discussions of various parish councils, faith communities. So structural renewal, change, as well as the mind. The decision to have option for the poor, to be a participatory, to build PCs and to have the family as core focus of renewal became a missionary impulse. Imagine if a priest has option for the poor. He's not going to stay in his convento waiting for the poor to come. He goes out towards the poor. Pope Francis does that. Cardinal has that. Diba? Every time I hear about Cardinal going out to some slum area, no, it pictures pa sa court in the CBCP monitor. No? All these people have this option for the poor and take it very seriously. Take it very seriously. I feel less a missionary when I simply stay at home. I feel more of a missionary when I go out to some of the mountain areas of Cotabato and stay there for 2 or 3 days. It's something I missed when I was an oblate missionary. As an oblate missionary, I was in institutions, university, seminary, and only 2 years was I a parish priest. And I was a parish priest in Sulu, Holo, where there were only about 1,000 Catholics and maybe 20,000 Muslims. Kind. So I felt like at home. And I felt very much a missionary when I had malaria. I had 2 kinds of malaria, and I was very happy to have malaria, because that was the sign that you were a missionary in Holo. If you are a missionary in Holo, Sooner or later, you will have malaria. And in 2 years, I had malaria, 2 different kinds. I was happy. The sign of being missionary. Well, a new finance system. There is a support that is necessary for this new missionary impulse. How do the poor participate in supporting the evangelization mission of the church? How? Collection, di ba? That's how the poor participate. Just collect. Tapos na. Sunday collection, no? They give. But this time, the question is asked, how can the poor support the church? Support the mission of the church? So that in supporting the mission of the church, they also are missionaries. The idea of a modified tithing system began. What is a modified tithing system? It's not 10% of your income. It is what your family can pledge every month to support. It belongs to the Lord, and everything has been given to us by the Lord. What can we afford to return to the Lord? How can we afford to support the church and its mission? In effect, the support the catechetical program, the family life program, the lay leadership program, the BEC program. That's what the concrete question will come to be. So, there was one family, it was shared to me a long time ago. Pwede 10 pesos a month. Sabi ng bata, isang anak, Papa, kung magsakit, yeah, very strong. But there, we are trying to give them salaries that are enough for what you call living wage, you know. But no choice. You don't have to ambition for great bigger parishes and richer parishes. So much so that in Nueva Segovia, some of the older priests who were used to be parish priests, they said, Bishop, pwede ba doon na lang ako sa maliit na parish? Kasi it's the same. At matanda na ako, doon na lang ako. What I used to call RAM. Okay, you will be on RAM. Ni RAM sa noon time of the revolution, EDSA. RAM is called Reduced Active Ministry. So you're older ones. Being missionaries are extra. Another point. Ano ba ito? Hanggang 3? Oh, very quickly then. There's another point. 2 bishops asked me to send them priests. One from Saskatchewan, Canada. The other one from Alaska. These are 2 difficult mission areas. Few people, long distances, and snow below 0. But they ask, I know that there are mission territories, Saskatchewan. I went there to take a look, and then I explained to the priests, okay, you are all missionaries at home now, but do you want to serve as missionaries abroad? No one was interested. When I described the harsh conditions of being a priest in Saskatchewan and in Alaska. Tugnaw kaayo dito, Bishop. Tugnaw yun. Very cold. Heaters everywhere. You don't want to get out of bed. Because when you see the snow out there, mas maayo na lang din. May heater sa bed, may heater na kumot, may heater na pajama. You have to go out there and drive, and you drive about 75 miles to reach another chapel. You see more wild animals along the road than people. Saskatchewan and Alaska. But we talk, they discussed. Ano ba talaga? Ano ba sabi ni Obispo na I talk about comfort zones. Ito, siguro maayo kung kato, magtilaw lang, you taste how to be mo siya. And then, question arose again about a year later. Several hands were raised who want to go to Saskatchewan, to Alaska. But we have to send the best to go there. Not priests with problems or create problems. They might be sent home quickly by the Alaskan bishop or by the Canadian bishop, Saskatchewan bishop. So we had to send the best. Nga naman, why is it that we are willing, I am willing, to send priests abroad when we need priests in Cotabato? We have one priest taking care of a parish with 60 chapels. One priest. We have newly ordained priests who are parish priests taking care of Alamada, for instance, which is difficult in the mountain areas. Why am I willing? Because of my experience as a missionary outlay. Our founder, St. Eugene de Mazarin, was asked by bishops to send priests. It was a struggling missionary congregation in France. And St. Eugene de Mazarin said, yes, we will send you priests. That's how priests went to South Africa, Basotho land, to England, where the Anglicans were taking over everything. And then went to Sri Lanka. Those were the first public missions during the lifetime of Jesus. And what happened? More occasions came because of the mission consciousness of these priests. Ang uncle ko dito sa South Africa, gusto ko rin mag-oblate. Well, many of the priests would like to go to those places now. But the people in the parishes where they come from are very proud that their kababayan is in Alaska or is in Saskatchewan. The mission consciousness at home has become a mission appreciation abroad for the people. And with that, I have gone through the first several things. First, what it means to be a mission, a parish or a BC in a state of mission. What does it mean? What does it mean to be a lay person, to be in a state of mission? What do you have to be and do in that? Then I move on to that, from that idea to the whole archdiocese to have a conversion with regard to mission. And that conversion was through a general assembly called APA 5 and later on APA 6. And then the structures, renewal of structures from mission consciousness to renewal of structures in the parishes and in faith communities and in parish councils and so on and so forth down to the BEC level. The structure, restructuring back. It's no longer simply from top, the structure, archdiocese to BEC, but it's really from BEC to above. Decisions are being taken at the lowest level possible and brought up to the parish and from the parish to the whole archdiocese. renewal of structure, decision making. It is not, I don't say that we are doing well. They have many lights, but also many shadows. We are struggling, unlike that of Nueva Sokovia, which seems to have done well after 12 years I was working there. It turned Nueva Sokovia from maintenance to mission, from lack of participation to participation, from option from just among the elite and for the poor. And I hope that will continue. But we want to do that, especially when we say option for the poor, get rid of all those fees that are there, to have a new support system on behalf of mission. I end then this presentation with this prayer, which is an adaptation of what Pope Francis has said. A shortened version at the end of the Evangelii Gaudium, and let us say this together. Mary, Virgin Mother, pray for us now and in the hour of the resurrection, that may we bring to all the gospel of life, which triumphs over death. Give us a holy courage to seek new paths, that the gift of unfailing beauty may teach everything. Star by new evangelization, help us to bear radiant witness to communion, service, honor, and generous faith, justice and love of the poor, that the joy of the gospel may reach to the ends of the earth, illuminating even the fringes of our world. Mother of the living gospel, pray for us. Amen. Hallelujah. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Cardinal. Thank you for